Hey guys, this is Gina Versa. Good to see and hear you. Coming from you from the Palpatine throne room, Sith, whatever, Exegol, whatever the fuck that was.
Exegol.
Exegol, yeah. Thanks for joining us today. It's just me again this week as the host, but I got some cool guests with me. First up to my right, I'm not sure well, it's on Zoom, but hey, I think it's my left. But I had my good friend Shelby Chandler. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing?
Good. I'm Shelby. I'm a Star Wars fan and I work in public access. Let's go.
Oh yeah. We had you on the Mandalorian episode talking Ahsoka. It was like episode 12, 14, I don't know. For the
I don't
Jedi.
remember.
So, yeah, that was a fun
Yeah,
one. Mhm.
that was a good one. That was a fun one to be on. Lots of exciting things happening, and then they happened.
Yeah, yeah. But it's awesome to have you back again. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good recording. Yeah, it was like post Thanksgiving. So yeah, awesome to have you back, and yeah, good to see you again. We also have Andrew Salazar. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, hello. I am doing fantastic.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm always willing to take a break for my other duties to come on and talk about Star Wars, specifically, usually Star Wars animation. But every now and then, I also like to, come on and talk crap about live action stuff and release some steam. But that won't be happening today. At least, hopefully, not as much as we think so.
Okay. Yeah, no, don't be as salty because it's like this is the good Star Wars, not that bad.
It's
No
all
salty
bad.
Star
No.
Wars today.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess happy belated May the 4th. Yeah, this episode will probably be dropping past that, but well, hope you guys had a good one. I'm not sure if you saw any movies or anything for it. Besides
I
the
watched
Bad
The
Batch.
Simpsons. Oh, I watched The Simpsons short.
Oh, I saw that as well. It's like the Force, was it like the Force Awakens, like Maggie Simpson or
Force Awakens from its nap, and I watched it, and they were just doing the what was it called? But because it was based off another short that they did with Maggie that was actually really good.
Longest Daycare.
Yeah, Longest Daycare at the Ayn Rand School, and now this one is the Star Wars School.
Mm-hmm.
And I read an article. They made that in like 4 months, and I'm like, oh, really?
Oh man, for Simpsons writers and
I
animators,
know.
yeah. Because you're a
There
big
was
Simpsons fan, right? Andrew
I'm
doesn't
a
watch it.
huge, I'm a huge Simpsons fan. I try to. There are gems in there past 11, even though you don't believe me, Gene. But there are some gems. I'm working on the list.
Okay, I think
But
11's like 2000, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I don't know.
okay. Because I think past like season like 13 or 14, that's when I tap out. Like, there's a couple
Yeah,
episodes I've seen, but yeah, I think there are good episodes past 11. I'm not sure if, and I'm going a little off topic, but did you see one of the Simpsons writers? His name is John Swalzer. He's like one of the biggest like writers next to like Conan on The Simpsons, but he's a famous recluse. He finally gave an interview.
no, I didn't see that.
So
Yeah, it was pretty. It blew up. Yeah.
It blew up. It was on Twitter. Yeah, I'll send it to you after. But like, he was just talking. Like, he wrote the episode Homer's Enemy with Frank Grimes, and they asked him like, "What's your like, what was your process? Like, what was it like? You're like, that's a really dark episode. Like, what do you have to say about that?" He's like, "Oh, he did. Frank Grimes, he didn't like our Homer. He had it coming. Like, it's it was on him. Like,
That's
kinda,
true.
yeah." Kind of true because Homer didn't really do anything to Grimy. He just was being himself, and he was just jealous.
He's
So
the one person I think in all of Simpsons that Homer genuinely didn't do anything to,
he didn't, yeah,
and he hated Homer for it.
yeah. He just,
So yeah, I'm with him.
like it's not Homer's fault, like that guy hated him and was jealous because Homer just happened to adventures happen to him. He meets like presidents. He goes into space. It's not on Homer.
He went into space.
But yeah, that's a good interview. But yeah,
Speaking of space,
Mhm.
I was trying to help you get back.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, going back. Yeah, I get off topic. It's all right. But I was just gonna say that the Simpsons one, it was okay, but it feels like a little feels like a little like corporate mandated. I'll say that.
Yeah. Mhm.
The latest one I like when they did, instead of, okay, again, taking us back off topic, but
That's all right.
the most recent one I saw, I always watch the Treehouse of Horror, and I liked how they did Thanksgiving of Horror. That was fun. If you watched that,
Cool.
that was a good one. So
yeah, because I was just going to say one thing before we go into our main topic here. On The Simpsons, there's a parody called like Space Horrors or Cosmic Horrors.
yes,
And I'm like, I want them to bring that back. If they have to like do all this like corporate like mandated like shorts, like just do it on their own Star Wars in the universe. So yeah.
Instead of I don't watch Family Guy, but of course I've seen the Star Wars one.
Yeah.
So it's like, are they just going to have the Simpsons do that? Because we already have that, but then again, they own Fox anyway. Are they just going to use Family Guy? Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, we'll see. But hey,
All
it's,
gonna
Good
happen.
yeah,
You guys are, we're gonna get both of them.
exactly.
It's
We'll
nothing
do a
but
crossover again.
Yup.
Yeah.
And then have Futurama with it, because why not?
Yeah.
And Disenchantment. Let's do that. I'll do that. I'll watch that.
Maybe not just
so much content to consume, so little time.
But but I guess yeah, so like the short, it's 2 minutes, so yeah, if you want to check it out, you can. So definitely.
Just cool background stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess that brings up to the main topic here: Star Wars, not The Simpsons, even though they're both owned by Disney, the giant corporation. But yeah, it's May, Star Wars. Well, we love Star Wars. Like talking about it. A lot of episodes are centered on that. But just first question for you guys: what was like your first memory with Star Wars? Like it doesn't even have to be a movie. What's like the first thing that you're consciously like aware of? Like, oh hey, that's like a lightsaber or what have you.
Let's go first.
I'll go. First? Yeah, I'll go. Oh, do you want to go first, or whoever has like who could pull like from their memory banks?
I mean, I can remember because I was talking about because we were talking about Revenge of the Sith with some friends before. I think that's the one I really remember like being in theaters. I remember because my mom used to work for. Did you guys have Sylvan Learning Center?
I did. Yeah.
You guys are. Okay, my mom worked at one, and right next door was a Newberry Comics, which is a New England comic books chain from Newberry Street. But yeah, and we bought a bunch of Star Wars toys, and then we went home, and then we watched Revenge of the Sith on DVD that day.
Nice.
And I don't remember how old I was, but Trevor and Luke were 5.
Okay.
So that was fun.
Oh, that's dope, yeah.
And my parents did not block us from anything, so that was fun.
Good, yeah. No, that's a good movie to start with, like Revenge of the Sith, the best of the prequels. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Do you have any like Star Wars toys or anything that was like your like main toy or anything?
Oh, I loved art. I had an R2D2 that had a little arm that would attach at the top.
Oh, nice. Very cool. Andrew, can you remember anything from your like childhood?
Yeah, well, I was born and raised a prequel baby, and I guess that's why. Well, not only because of my age, but I guess that I can definitely attest to that's one of the reasons why Star Wars animation, specifically Clone Wars and Bad Batch, that we're gonna get into. That's why I have like a very strong connection towards these, probably more than some other fans. Okay. But I had Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones on DVD before I had ever seen anything related to Star Wars. I don't know why my parents decided to buy or to own them, but I had them on DVD, and I would watch them religiously, like back to back. I was a little kid, so I didn't know how to, before my film critic days, you could say, I didn't know how to tell good pacing, bad plot structure to whatever the hell, To me, I was like, wow, this is so amazing. And as a little kid, like Jar Jar Binks was like one of my favorite characters. I was one of those kids. I love Jar Jar. I love pod racing. I love like Abu, like all of the stuff. I still, and even to this day, like I can acknowledge that The Phantom Menace is not a good movie, but I can legit sit down and watch that movie and have like the time of my life. Like I do not care if it's bad. I have such a personal connection to that film where I can sit down, pop open like a cold one, and I'll have you do not need to bug me. I'll have such a great time. I know like a lot of the shitty lines. I know a lot of like the reason why it's problematic, but it's to me it's just like a part of like preserving history, I guess. And like believe it or not, I have a similar connection to Attack of the Clones, but that one's a little more slow, where I will get kind of bored now, even as an adult. As in Phantom Menace, like I guess the really bad dialogue and like some of the really weird choices keep me entertained, even at my age. But I had those two on DVD. I watched them back to back religiously. And when Revenge of the Sith came out, I remember kind of vividly the lead up to that film on Cartoon Network on Toonami, watching
the Gendy Tarkovsky.
Watching the Gendy series
Those
piece
are
by
great.
piece.
They're
Watching
on
it
Disney
on
Plus.
yeah, they just got out of Disney Plus.
Right.
I remember watching them on TV in the lead up.
They were during the commercial breaks, right?
Yeah, and I was like, holy, like shit, like this is my shit. I remember owning them when they released them in Volume 1 and Volume 2 on DVD. And of course, one of my earliest memories of being in a theater at midnight, when we used to still do midnight screenings, was Revenge of the Sith. Because yeah, my family knew like that I was watching these things religiously. It didn't really carry over when the Clone Wars, the animated show, started airing on Cartoon Network. I didn't follow it back then, but I remember watching Revenge of the Sith twice on opening weekend, one at midnight, and then the other on like the Saturday or Sunday. And holy, like I've until then, that's like when like I was always in love with it prior as a kid, but at that moment is when like it skyrocketed. And then I had someone, one of my parents at the time was like, he's like, oh, you like now that you know all of this stuff, like you think this stuff is good, like don't worry, like you haven't even seen like the original trilogy. And I didn't, because I didn't have anyone back then to show me these movies. I only had what was accessible to me, which were the DVDs.
So you were like a person who was like, oh man, there's no more Star Wars. And then one of your parents was like, wait.
No, wait a minute. No.
Wait a minute.
And then again, I was still fairly young, so when I saw the original trilogy, I fell in love with it all over again. So when I got older, it was a little odd to me that I discovered that there was a whole like subsection of the fandom that like just legit hated Ewoks to like the core of their hearts. That was really odd to me, because I was like, well, like do people really like fucking like pull out their hair over these little bears? And then of course, like the more that I got involved on the internet, and the more that I started realizing, wow, like people really like fucking hate George Lucas for creating Jar Jar Binks. I had that perspective where I was like, what the fuck is it, like what have I missed? Like when I was little, I had no awareness of any of this. Like I just saw something, I liked it, and like, oh, this goes boom. I'm very entertained. Oh, this looks pretty.
Yeah.
But even to this day, I will say I have not turned my back on the prequels. I acknowledge, I had a coworker who was making fun of me. He was like, Andrew, you talk so much shit about them, but how do you like them? I was like, you can like something for it being bad or for it being what it is, you know? I can watch Phantom Menace. I can quote all of Jar Jar's lines because to me they're really funny. I genuinely think he's really funny, and I genuinely like have that kind of connection to it. But I can also really, I will say without a doubt, like I'm not just trying to like hype things up, but the Phantom Menace, the Duel of the Fates duel. Yeah. That sounds stupid. Duel of the Fates is still like probably like the most thrilling lightsaber fight. Obviously, it's a little bit unfair because it's like a dual lightsaber. But when you watch that, I've seen it in theaters, and I have gone back to seeing that movie more than a few times in theaters. And when that shit happens, it still slaps, and it still hits harder than some of the things that the more recent movies that probably have given us. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. I don't think it is.
Yeah. Well,
I like the new movies fairly, but like if you watch that saber fight on the big screen with good visuals and good sound, that shit will take you away. I can guarantee you, it could still take you away.
Yeah. Do you like that scene more after like the Dave Filoni explanation from it that went viral for Duel of the Fates with Qui-Gon?
I mean,
trying to save Anakin's soul.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I liked it more or less. I think I kind of do see what Dave Filoni was saying in that shit went viral. That shit went viral when The Mandalorian was airing. I don't think season 2 had come out yet. I don't think season 2 had come out.
Yeah, it was a round.
No, because it was a round table, right?
Yeah.
And I remember that shit went viral. And when Dave Filoni's giving that whole explanation in front of him, he's sitting next to Jon Favreau, and go watch that shit again. He's talking like he knows what he's talking about, and we're gonna keep praising Dave Filoni.
Yeah, that's great. Shelby, have you seen that clip that we're talking about?
No, I got disconnected for a second and I just got back.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Andrew, how would you? What's the context of that clip? It's Dave Filoni.
He's describing Duel of the Fates, the fight in a more metaphorical sense than in a physical sense. So he's talking about Qui-Gon and Obi versus Maul. But
yeah.
the sense that why it's called even Duel of the Fates, or like why does it even have that name? Like what's the thematic context behind this fight? Because we know it looks cool and it looks amazing, but like what's underneath that? He's basically giving this explanation of how like Qui-Gon, it's like for the fate of Anakin. Like the whole fight hinges on the fate of Anakin's future, and that that's what Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are fighting for, and that's like Qui-Gon goes that far to where he ends up losing his life. But it's during a roundtable. It was on the BTS doc for the first season of Mandalorian.
I forgot
that
what
was on
it's
Disney
called.
Plus.
Yeah, the gallery.
Yeah. So if you go back and watch it, and I remember it went viral. He's explaining this because this man, Dave Filoni, he was brought up by George himself, right? He's learned from like, if there is to be one person to learn from, it's that person.
He's like the heir apparent.
Yeah, in a sense.
Yeah, he's the heir apparent. Yeah,
and
I've heard that.
I mean, look, the fandom, they love to suck up to him and to put him on a high horse, but believe it or not, he kind of has more or less deserved it. Yeah. Because the stuff that he's done and the way that he's presented himself and the way that he goes about what he does it's a very honorable and a very admirable way. Yeah. Unlike some other people who have gotten the keys to the franchise recently, but I'm not going to name them. But so he's going back. He's explaining this, and he's sitting next to Jon Favreau.
Yeah, you won't find like nepotism in Dave Filoni.
No,
for sure.
Absolutely not. Even though you could have very easily. But all the directors are watching something like Taika Waititi, Deborah Chow, and Bryce Dallas Howard, and the other directors. They're sitting there watching him, and they're like confounded that he's able to explain this fucking lightsaber fight like if it's like this like 30-page thesis or something, you know. But more specifically, I remember the thing that stood out to me is that he's sitting right next to Jon Favreau, and if you look at Jon Favreau's face, he's like, holy shit, like this. He has a face on him that he's like, this guy might like know more than me, and he kind of knows that. I guess I remember that image of him just looking at him. People were like, Favreau fucking knows it. He fucking knows that this guy is the real deal. And I guess you can attest that he acknowledged that because in the second season he kind of handed him the keys on like, okay, I'm not gonna touch Ahsoka. Fuck that. Like that's all you. Like just do what you think. You know, like that's your baby and stuff like that.
And but George Lucas was like, oh yeah, he's right.
Yeah, I mean, so but when you ask me, Gene, like what do I think about, like, do you think it makes the fight better? I don't think it makes it like any worse or any like better necessarily, but it is something that I do appreciate, and I do it is like a context that I do take to mind, if that makes any sense. You know, I'm not gonna say, oh, like Dave Filoni, he just made this thing from 20 years ago better. Like, no, that's not how really how it works. Like,
okay,
you know, he just gave me a new perspective that I have not thought about, because I always thought the fight was amazing. You know what I mean? There's nothing about it that's, I think, gonna make it any less or any better. But it is something that I do appreciate, because not, believe it or not, it's crazy to say, but not I don't feel like there are a lot of people at Lucasfilm now, creative wise, who are put at the front and center, that share this same that are able to make similar levels of insight per se.
Yeah.
Because it's like two scales. You have Dave Filoni going back, praising the prequels, talking about all this other stuff, and on the opposite side, you have people like Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams, who are like, it was always about the Palpatines. It was always going to be about the you'll have it say shit like that, and you're like, what? Like, what are you talking about? So I appreciate it, because I feel like I want to hear more of that from other mouths, not just him.
You know what? I was going to say just on that note, because I don't think he's ever given too many interviews, but I think you might also find that in the Tartakovsky Star Wars, because I was rewatching them recently, and like they show like a lot of foreshadowing of Anakin going to the dark side, but it's stuff where it's like when he's like fighting Asajj Ventress for the first time, he takes like he gives into his rage, or he takes his like red lightsaber, And there's like some other like things where they add a lot more depth. I think he has like a flashback to him with Qui-Gon in one of the episodes.
Yes.
And
Yes, I remember.
I'd have to find some Genndy interviews because I think he really gets it like Filoni, but Genndy only had his like window of time with that franchise.
Right.
We stand Genndy Tartakovsky in this house, so.
And before moving off from Genndy, I think, especially now more than ever, because the fandom and I mean, people who have listened to this podcast and who have heard me yell about Star Wars before, they've probably heard me say similar things. But the fandom itself now is so obsessed with like trying to distinguish what's important versus what's not important.
Yeah.
And they try to measure that on more of a literal scale than more of a scale of like, well, like how does it make you feel on the inside? How is it? How important is it to you? Right. So they'll look at something like. Oh, and we can talk about this in the Bad Batch too, because there is an example that I will bring this back to.
Sure.
So people will say something like, "Oh, well, Genndy Clone Wars," and I remember back in like 2013 when Pablo Hidalgo was still on Twitter. The one time that he ever replied to me is I just asked a very simple question. I was like, "Hey, Pablo, like, I grew up like on Genndy's Clone Wars. Like, why is just out of curiosity, like, why is it not canon?" Right. I'm just very curious. Like,
no maliciousness. Yeah.
No. I was like, why? I'm just curious. Why is it not canon? And he replied and he said, well, George never saw it as canon anyway. He just saw it. No. Like, he just saw it as like this cool extra bonus thing that he had a lot of faith in. He didn't really see it as like I could
actually see that. Sorry to
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, if you watch that, like a lot of stuff is different. Like Grievous, he's voiced by another guy that's not Matt Wood, and the way they use Grievous is like he's way different. Even I think in the Filoni Clone Wars, because Grievous is almost like portrayed like a Terminator, like a horror movie character. Yeah. And I think even in like in Clone Wars, the CGI Clone Wars, he's not that. He's more like a devious sort of general. Like he's like, he doesn't like crawl up like walls like he does in like the Genndy Clone Wars.
He does, but not. But it's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah, because like when he's introduced for the first time, he's almost just like this like horror movie character, just like killing all these Jedi. Like, but he's doing it like a John Carpenter, like The Thing. He's doing it like in secrecy or like he's in the shadows a lot. So I could definitely see that where the way they use it, and like even in the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, the way they use the clone, like the Force is like they're almost like Superman or like super
like Dragon Ball,
like Dragon Ball because it's so exaggerated. Yeah. But
so he even then Pablo Hidalgo, and he's given this explanation so many times before. It's like, well, George never saw it as something that he thought was like necessarily canon. He just thought it was a cool bonus thing that he put a lot of faith in, and he supported, which is cool. But nowadays people will be like, oh, it's not canon, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't matter. Why am I gonna watch it? They put it on Disney Plus. That's cool. I don't care. It's not canon, is it? Where does it fit on this timeline?
Yeah.
And again, I think Lucasfilm, I'm not gonna say they're partly to blame, but when Lucasfilm themselves, they love to do this more than Marvel. I'll say that they love to like put their stuff up on a pedestal and put it on a nice timeline and tell the fans, look, this is where this is. This is how definitive our brand is. To the point where you have the movies and you have the fucking Disneyland theme park that's included in the timeline, right?
That's too crazy.
We're like, guys, look at this. Look how beautiful this timeline is.
We had it all planned out.
Right. So when you see when Genndy's Clone Wars, and there's other examples, whether it be from other stuff from Legends, when they don't make it on this timeline that Lucasfilm and Disney they're selling, people look at it and they're like, why do I give a fuck? Why should I care?
It's so self-important.
Because a lot of these things carry a lot of value still.
Yeah, exactly. So it's because even Marvel, it's like Marvel's just like Spider-Man Homecoming, like Avengers was like 8 years ago, and then Homecoming's like, oh yeah, it was 10, and then Kevin Feige was like, no, it's not. He just did that for the movie. It's like, I don't care. It was for the story,
Yeah. The closest that you can say to Marvel is how the Netflix fans, like the Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and the ABC fans, Agents of Shield and Agent Carter, how they don't feel like they're as included into the main universe as say the films. But even then, they get thrown plenty of bones, in my opinion. You
Yeah.
get characters from Agent Carter showing up in Endgame, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, maybe this does like matter. So like again, this whole mentality of like what matters and what doesn't, I feel has plagued like the
Oh,
fandom.
yeah. No, definitely.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I'm
Really,
gonna bring this up again. We're going to Bad Batch. I will
yeah,
bring it up.
we'll get to it. I really quick because I was gonna say just my Star Wars first memory. Mine was like this. I had like a kind of a memento sort of viewing of the original trilogy because the first Star Wars movie that I remember watching was Return of the Jedi. It was the VHS special edition, and that's the one where Lucas is talking in the pre-tape or whatever of talking about the prequels. He's talking about it on the VHS. And I used to like play with my little X-Wing toy my dad got me and like reenact them. So I think I saw Return, then Empire, and then probably like A New Hope at some point. So it was like all backwards, but I love them. And I guess I'm older than you guys, but like I started on the original trilogy, and then watched the prequels, and my dad took me. He fell asleep, so during during Phantom Menace, so that was cool. I was just watching. Yeah, understand. He's old, very old.
No, my mom. That's funny. My mom actually fell asleep while watching New Hope.
Oh, okay. Cool.
She was 6 years old, and she was like, "I guess I needed glasses because I couldn't see what was happening."
Yeah, I've not. I mean, it happens like to the best of us. I've fallen asleep in a lot of movies, even in a theater. I fell asleep during Shazam.
Oh no! That's a whole other can of worms, Gene.
All right.
Don't open that one right
It's
now.
all good. But
he was tired.
Just really quick, before we go into the Bad Batch, what season did you guys watch? Did you guys from the start? I know we were talking about the Clone Wars. Did you watch the movie in theaters? What was your like introduction to Clone Wars?
It was just always on Cartoon Network. That's how I remember it. That's where I saw the movie. We were talking about that earlier. I mean, Cartoon was always on, and then until season 7 on Disney Plus.
Nice.
But
yeah,
watching season 7, I was like, I don't think I remember a lot of stuff that happened. But
yeah, it's a show that's like 13 years old. That's barely ended.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
And I was like, this is a really long show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can't be too much in there.
Yeah.
But no, I remember the main stuff. But
Andrew, did you have any when did you start watching?
I remember watching the premiere when it happened on Cartoon Network. That episode where Yoda is on Toydaria with the Toydarians, the Watto aliens. I believe that's what it was.
Yeah.
But then after that, I don't know why I just never continued. But I remember at one point, I don't even remember what year it was. Maybe 2012, 2013. I went out of my way because back then StarWars.com, they had like a list on the official website that was like the chronological order of the episodes, because in Lucas's Madman vision, he loves his stuff to be like out of order, and that's what he serialized, and that was his vision, which I can totally admire. I could totally admire he stuck to his guns. Cool on him, you know what I mean? But and back then, because I didn't they were on Netflix. They just got added to Netflix. I was like, let me go watch them from like this order, and I watched the entire series from whatever order it was to whatever it told me, and it was kind of weird. It wasn't that weird because I'm like, all right, I just have to jump around a few seasons, but there were some episodes that were like, okay, start in season 2, go back to 1, finish 1, jump to 3, then go back to 2, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
how did they get away with this? But I watched it in that order, fell in love. I was a part of the whole. I guess all of us. I can't just say me. We were. I feel like we were all a part of like the movement and the revive it, stuff like that. Bring Clone Wars back and covering, because I covered the show extensively 2 years ago now. That's crazy. I feel like it was just last year for the website I help run, Discussing Film, and going that it feels kind of like a fever dream now to feel like the fact that they brought the show back, and I got a chance to write a lot about it, and that I actually like. It's so weird to think that like when I first saw that show, I was just like a fan, or I am just a fan now. But when I came back, that I guess I was in a different state of, I don't want to say influence. I had a thing going for me, in that I feel like, wow, I actually did grow up with the show, because I am an adult now, like doing like a job, and this is a part of my job. How crazy is that? So that's
Oh,
why
that's
I feel,
great.
no, I feel like that's a part of the reason why, like, and of course, besides the fact that it's never really let me down. I don't think so, because if it would, you'd hear me bitching about it right now. But yeah, the fact that I've grown that much with the show, or I did, and that it never once like let me down
Mhm.
severely, and it was all, again, going back to Filoni, it was always in tune with what I expected, and it went above, and it even went above that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's I'm not trying to. I think Diego said it when we were covering the finale.
Last
Uh,
year.
I think I'm not gonna try to steal his words, but I think I'm gonna try to quote him. Is he said something like, "It feels like," and also it's a little bit unfair because this is the last thing that George worked on before he retired, but you still feel like those pieces and those elements of George left, and I feel like you don't really feel that as much. There are instances. I'm not gonna say that it's completely stripped, but like in the new movies, you feel
Mm.
you like, if you're lucky, you'll feel that every now and then. Or if they make a really good decision, you're like, wow, like this is
Yeah.
what George would have
You,
wanted.
you feel
It
the
feels like that. Yeah.
mouse's hand at work.
in Clone Wars, you feel that the whole time. That
Yeah.
never went away. Even when they brought it back and George had not touched it for such a long time, it still felt that way. And I feel like that's why it's so special. And again, we're about to go into it. I feel like some of that is carrying over into the Bad Batch.
So the Bad Batch, it dropped on May the 4th. I guess it dropped at midnight, and this is the continuation of the Clone Wars, because these had the characters we saw in that last season. Um, yeah, for us, I guess I don't know if this is technically a spin-off or a continuation. I guess you
Yes.
couldn't have chose a better
Yeah,
cast of characters.
I did think I clicked the wrong series for a minute,
Hmm.
and then it just burns away. Oh no, you're watching Bad
The
Batch.
Bad Batch.
And actually, while I was watching it, my sister walked by and she was like, "Does that say bad bitch?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Close, close. There are some bad bitches here, but
Yeah.
That wait, just really quick. That's so funny that you said that, because when they first announced the show, and when they first put, again, going back to the fucking timelines that they love to sell, when they did that presentation in last December,
Uh-huh.
and they showed all the new Star Wars things. So you had like Roger and Obi-Wan, and it said Bad Batch like at the bottom left. And I had so many friends who were like, "Bad bitch," like what the heck? They really thought it said "bad bitch,"
uh,
and it looks funny because they kind of, if you kind of squint, or if you don't look right away, it does look like it says that.
Yeah.
it does look like that. But yeah, that can be our nickname for it. But yeah, this is the
Yeah, it's well, it's like Pac-Man why they changed his name. He used to be Puck-Man. So definitely could do some good Photoshop there, but yeah, no, the first episode, and this is like full on spoilers. So if you, I don't know if any listener hasn't seen it at this point, well, just like go ahead. You could stop it, you could pause it, and then you could hear us just spoil the show for you. So what was the thoughts on like Bad Batch as it was announced? I know we were talking about the timelines, but like, what was your first impression? Because I know there was a lot of takes on when they announced like all the Disney Plus shows at that like meeting or that presentation or whatever. I was all for this one, but I don't know if I'll watch a like an Acolyte TV show or whatever that spinoff was. The Palpatine one, we all know it's Palpatine. But anyway, yeah, what'd you guys think as this as we slowly got closer to this, being Clone Wars fans?
hmm. I mean, I love the clones. I was excited that we're gonna get this whole group together.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm still fresh on this, so
Oh, okay. Yeah, out of all those things in the presentation, this one I was like, you can't say anything about this. I don't want to hear any film Twitter people talking shit because this is
Yeah, I did it.
this looks dope. It looks awesome. We're gonna have
Okay,
4 clone voiced by D.
if
Bradley Baker.
yeah,
Mhm.
I'll be the wild card here in this segment.
Okay.
When the show was first announced, even though I've been praising Star Wars animation as much, I was like a doubter because, well, first of all, it just sounds like what, like why, like no offense, no offense,
Okay.
no
You know
offense.
what? You know what? I
It just
think you
sounds
just
like
wanted a
no.
spin-off of the Martez
Just
sisters. That's what you wanted. And you
I
love
like
that.
them. I like them. You cannot spin me as some kind of incel gene because I am on this podcast in previous episodes praising them. Okay,
Okay.
so I'm not an incel. Okay, I no, but I'm not gonna lie. At first, it seemed, I guess, like why, like what worth is there? And I think a piece of this has to do with the fact that as Star Wars fans, I guess a lot of the fandom, we're just so ready to move on to new things.
Yeah.
That's why I guess Mandalorian really took off because it was in an era of Star Wars that we had not really seen explored.
Not really.
Mhm.
And with after Return of the Jedi, all that stuff had only been in comics and stuff.
Hmm.
And we've seen like Order 66 plenty of times. We just saw it again in the final season of Clone
Right.
Wars. I think they pull it off great, but the fact is that we did just see it again. We've seen all of these spin-off movies, Solo, Rogue One, they've all taken place in the 20-year gap between between 3 and 4, and then there's a lot of other things still on the way that are still going to take place between 3 and 4. So I was just like, well, what can you add that I haven't seen before, right? And if you're just going to do it with just these clones, a big concern, and I cannot take like a bunch of people were saying this, like, who is this show for? Like
Mhm.
it feels like it's just in the beginning. This is before we got a trailer or anything. People were just like, is this just a show that's going to be for like little boys?
Yeah.
That's all it feels like. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And like that wasn't like a. I mean, I can see that criticism,
Yeah.
but I think it goes to say that like the big like finding its worth. Like, what are you going to show me that these other films with the Clone Wars didn't already show me? Because I think a lot of people were like, people were like, for any characters
Mhm.
to get a spin-off, why them? Like, we just got introduced to them. There's
'Cause-
arguably, and I will say that they're good contenders, but arguably
Okay.
there are a bunch of other groups of characters that could have made just as an exciting spin-off. Maybe some of the bounty hunters, like what happened, Kid
Right.
Boba
Like
running
Kid
around
Boba.
with Boss,
I wanted to see that.
Simon,
That's what I wanted
running
to
around
see.
with, yeah, he's running around with Boss, Simon Pegg, Dengar, and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Hey, if they
I think it's Tom Kenny Boss too.
Tom
I
Kenny,
think
yeah.
Tom Kenny's Boss.
Hey, if they bring back
No, Tom Kenny
Dengar,
Greedo. Tom Kenny Greedo, Simon
Yeah.
Pegg, Dengar.
yeah, if they
Where
bring
are
back,
they? Right?
yeah, if they bring back Dengar in live action, Simon Pegg has to play him, right?
Something like that. So,
Yeah. He voiced him
so
in Battlefront too.
oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're like,
Okay.
out of all the characters, and plus, I think the idea of it just being D. Bradley Baker, like, what are you guys doing?
Mhm.
And I think to add even more, I think a lot of fans were waiting for some kind of announcement as to a sequel series to Rebels.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Which
what I
is
was kind of
still-
waiting for. Which I
yeah,
guess is
which
that live
is
action
still-
show. with
It's still
Ahsoka.
on the way. It's still
Alright.
on the way.
Alright.
In some shape or form, it's still on the way.
Alright.
But at the time, people were really like, "Oh, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, give me Rebels 2 or whatever the hell it's gonna be, right?"
Right, yeah.
But I think goes to say that the premiere, it definitely. Okay, I'll go again.
Sure.
But I think it goes to say what even these complaints. I think the premiere itself kind of crushed a lot of the big ones. Concerns being like, what is the worth in the show? Why am I gonna watch this every week? Why even invest so much time in this corner of the universe again, right? So I think it did what it needed to do. probably, obviously it's just the beginning, so there's probably like a
Yeah,
lot of room for like improvement and stuff like
right.
that. But
Well,
for it being the beginning,
yeah,
solid.
that opening's like really solid. Like, seeing them in action in the Clone Wars. I mean, you saw them in the original Clone Wars, but like, just seeing like them just being even more badass. They like flip over tanks and everything. Also, that was we had like a Kanan cameo, even though he's going by a different name. That was cool. I wish like they used another voice actor.
Yeah.
Freddie Prinze Jr. couldn't have the vocals of a 13-year-old, but they tried. I don't know. Do you like the thing they do with
Yeah.
South Park, where South Park they just mess with their audio because they can't do the voices anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so distracting.
Yeah,
It
it's
is
really
so
yeah.
distracting.
That's a bad call. Who made that? Who made that call? I like
It's
Kanan,
a
but like that
grown
was
ass, yeah.
grown
It's
out.
a grown ass man coming out of a little boy's body, and you're like, what the hell? It's very distracting. I mean, I don't understand. Like, if you would have just had to be a little kid, and
Right.
they just call him by his name, we still know who it is.
Yeah, you would have
Like,
known
there's
if you
no
like,
difference. If you just say his name a lot, which they do already, we
yeah,
know who it is. Just have a
yeah.
little kid do it. But that's
Have
a
it.
wonky decision.
Or like, I don't know, does him and like Sarah Michelle Gellar, do they have kids or whatever? Because they're married. He's married
I think
to
they might just,
like have one of
but
his
that's
kids
not.
voice it. Like have like his like son. He's like I don't
Yeah,
know,
that'd be
12.
cute.
Yeah, play his dad. I don't know because like he could not voice like a 12-year-old. That was really
Yeah,
distracting.
that was really distracting. Yeah, that got me out of it. And then I was like, "Hey, Caleb,
Yeah,
what?"
yeah,
It's really weird. And going back to what I said before, I think that was one of the things that people had talking, because to my knowledge, um, and you can prove me wrong, anyone, like or maybe someone who watches this will be like in the comment section will be like, Andrew's wrong. But that retcons um his
Oh,
perspective of Order 66 from his
yeah,
solo comic series.
yeah. It does because I was gonna say like why did they have Freddie Prinze voice him? Because it's like we know his backstory through the comic, and it's like why the fuck are we reading all these? Why are we reading all these comics for? You know?
Yeah, so that's the thing I wanted to come back to, because
What was the point of that? Not even.
from my understanding, I have not read those comic books, but I hear that the Kanan series was pretty good. His solo series, that you see like he's a Padawan, and you see, I don't know if I'm correct, but I believe he loses his master
Yeah,
at Coruscant because he's fighting a lot of ARC troopers,
yeah,
like the red ones that are like the royal, kind of like the royal guards or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
or the royal troopers if you want to say. So yeah, it's definitely odd.
Yeah.
It's a retcon. I mean, it's not okay. Look, it's not the biggest deal, and like this is the
No.
sad truth. Because why? Because it's a comic book, and
Right.
not everyone reads. That's
No.
very demeaning, and it's a shame because I don't think that's the way it should be.
Yeah,
But
it went the way of like all the expanded universe books.
yeah,
Just
and
in a $2
that's the
bin
reason.
somewhere.
And
I like
that's why I
some of
wanted
those
to bring it up.
books. I like some
Yeah,
of those
yeah,
books.
because a lot of people do. A lot of people love those stories.
In case you didn't
But
hear people
it kind of.
yelling about it online.
Yeah, in case you didn't,
Oh,
in
Yeah.
case you
But,
didn't realize.
like-
But
Mhm.
oh, if I have to see Order 66 for like the 60 millionth time, I do. I was interested in this part because it's like, okay, it's coming. Let's just get this over with already.
Yeah.
But,
It's like
I
Batman's
like
parents.
you're
Yeah.
like, okay, let's get this. Let's just do. I want to see the pearls drop. Let's go. Let's move
Mhm.
on to
Yeah.
what I really came here for. But I like the sense of confusion that's there. I like how, I liked all those moments where it was just like, and the other clones just being like, what are you guys doing? What's going
Mhm.
on? And then, we find out throughout the episode on why.
Yeah.
But
And then
that whole moment with them and the young and the Padawan just, running away like, guys, get away from me. And it's like, why are you guys, we're on your side. What's going on?
Right. Yeah, everyone except Crosshairs, who was just trying to like Crosshair tried to just murder him. Yeah,
I think-
Crosshair's
yeah.
a jerk.
I think
But
that's
yeah.
one of like the benefits,
Mhm.
or like I think that's like one of the benefits of the premiere because I think it's very aware of like what it needs to get through and all the ground it needs to cover because it's 70 minutes. When I first found that out, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I mean,
Me
I'm
too.
excited, but 70
Yeah.
minutes? What the fuck? But the show is very much aware of what it needs to go through and like all the stuff that it needs to cover. So by getting Order 66 like really just out the way, just like nothing, I think is to the show's benefit. And I don't think the show necessarily treats it like nothing, but like it's not perceived under the same like grand perspective or like the same as dramatic perspective as like let's say the season finale of like the Clone Wars or like
Yeah.
Or the
some other
Revenge of the
media.
Sith.
It just kind of goes through it, and you're like, yeah, I mean, I guess like I know it was gonna happen. So like
Right.
I don't think it's that much of a. I'm not saying it's a poor decision, but more of a very intentional.
Yeah, it's from the clones' perspective, and they're not like, for them, they don't know what's going on. Like they're not programmed to. Well, yeah, because they're defective. Essentially, they're not programmed to execute it. So like, yeah, you're kind of seeing it from their perspective, and it wouldn't be as dramatic like how it is in Revenge of the Sith, where it's like basically they film it like Godfather, the end of the Godfather, where
Yeah.
they assassinate all the Dons.
Yeah.
You just see it like, hey, what was that? It's like that was weird, and then they're like, oh yeah, like we like they killed everyone, and like why didn't we do this? And they're like, oh yeah, because we're defective. We're not like programmed like the clones.
Yeah, I feel like that's what it would. It felt like a more lived-in moment than a cinematic one because it's just like, I think we all know what it's like going through like for the year that we've all had, like just that kind of confusion. So, I understood like when they get back to the base and it's like, what's going on? And everyone's like, what do you mean? He's like, I want to be in this meeting.
Yeah.
I've had days like that. Like, I would like to see what's going on here.
It's like COVID.
And also like COVID, what?
Yeah.
And then when we see, Palpatine give his speech, I liked being down there with the clones at this point. That was nice.
Yeah, it's interesting because they reuse Ian McDermott's audio.
Yep.
Because it would probably be like, what's his name? He's Darth Maul. Sam Witwer would usually do Palpatine in the Clone Wars, or for that one season, it was randomly Tim Curry. But that's a cool thing. But yeah, just seeing their perspective, Palpatine doing his speech, and like they don't like comply, and just kind of like the other clones, they're probably like the best clone like troopers, but like the other clones just hate them. Like they're like the nerdy kids or the geeks in high school or like the unpopular kids.
I was gonna say they're like but I guess this still works. There are audience surrogates. It's like what it would be like to be a clone right now. Of like, what is everyone doing? What's it like being in America right now? Is everyone really saying that? Are we just okay? Did you hear what I heard?
They're an interesting bunch. I was gonna just point out because I haven't said this already. Like I have to like do a big shout out to D. Bradley Baker, who's just like amazing. He's like I think he's like one of the best voice actors because he's done like a bunch. Literally like every show you probably watched as a kid, he probably did it. Like he's the Lizard on Spider-Man. He's like friggin' in the Spider-Man game. He's like Carnage. He voices like 6 characters in the PS1 game for Spider-Man. This guy's like, Andrew, you probably, I don't know if you reviewed it, like just like that guy needs like just people need to recognize that guy as just like such an influential voice actor because people are always like Kevin Conroy, Tim Curry, but like D. Bradley Baker is just amazing as a voice actor. I have to say that the range.
I did cover the premiere, but one thing that was so hilarious that I feel like you watch like as people who are us, we've already seen Clone Wars. Our minds are trained already to like hear this dude's voice come out of like 10 fucking people in the same room. I'm curious. I'm really curious, but even for me, like someone who's seen all like the shows and shit, like there was at one point in this episode where I'm sitting down, and it kind of like it was like an uncanny feeling that hit me, where I was like, it's the same fucking dude. Who's been talking for the last 5 minutes. And it just non-stop.
It's just 75 minutes of this guy talking to himself, and it's amazing.
And the crazy thing is that the people who have worked with like the directors and shit who've worked with and specifically on the Bad Batch, the way that he records these things, it's like you would think that like because like his mind, he needs to like dedicate like a different, like, I guess, persona or
So
mentality.
one character at a time.
Yeah, but this dude, like coming from the people who have seen in the sessions, he does it all at once, and he just does it like
I was
he doesn't do different sessions. He just goes thugh it, and he just fucking switches on a dime.
Yeah, it's like a
And
split personality.
It's crazy. Yeah, he does it in one. He does it in one go, and it's fucking crazy. And I'm really curious as to people, because like I reviewed the episode, and I had a few people ask me like, would you recommend this if I've never seen Clone Wars or like the show? And that's a really tricky question, because I want to say absolutely because it's a good show, but at the same time, a piece of me is like, well, not really, because like one, because of the context of who these people are, but two, like this whole setup and this whole scenario, not everyone is used to hearing this dude's voice come out of like 10 like people in the same room. It might be a little weird for them, or it might be a little, I don't want to say like it's not negative, but it takes a while to get used to it. Because when we all first started Clone Wars, it was definitely one of the more interesting appeals. And it's like it has a cute charm to it, like, oh, it's the same guy. But like can you really sit down and listen to this dude for hours upon end?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, but I think you also get the advantage of that. It's animation, so I think you can get away with it a lot more. And I watched Orphan Black on BBC America, so I am used to watching one actor in a room basically talk to themselves for like an hour and a half. But yeah, I don't. Maybe not on a dime. That would be really interesting if you could do that for that show. Yeah. But I was just imagining him with just like a mic, like an open mic, just like doing a whole episode, like one man show. Why not?
Yeah. He's insane. He's insane. Kudos to him, man.
Oh yeah, definitely gotta like praise his like performance, because he's carrying the show.
He is the show.
He is the show. Yeah. There's other voices. Yeah.
And the batch, we'll call it, like the main group. I mean, they're distinct enough, you know. I think you know, by design. I think I think people can get into this.
For sure.
I know a lot of people that got into Clone Wars kind of late, and they were just like, they are clones. You kind of forget after a while, because the personalities are quite distinct, I think.
Yeah, they are. Definitely. They are. I'll give you that for sure.
You will catch up on it. Yeah. It takes a while to get used to. It's like, you know, when you know a pair of twins, you know, you'll figure it out. You don't notice it right away, but then you're like, oh, it's of course they're two different people. Of course they are.
They're just like clone troopers, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But going off of that, like the show's a lot darker, it seems like, than Clone Wars. I know Clone Wars got into some like definitely darker material, but like, you know,
interesting places.
Yeah, interesting places, because I don't recall like a episode of Clone Wars where, you know, like one of the clones is trying to like murder like a small child, you know, like just seeing like you know, like the stuff where it's like Tarkin, and it was cool to see Tarkin pop up, because that's like one of the cooler like that's one of my personal, like, I always enjoy like anything Tarkin. So like,
I love seeing him show up.
Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, I was just gonna say, just do you have any thoughts on just like these like darker themes of the show?
I think that's one of the more appealing things about how easily it just weaves over from Clone Wars, because Clone Wars had this very distinct, and I mean, I'm not saying that Rebels didn't have it or maybe Resistance didn't have it, but I think Clone Wars nailed this very significantly, where it didn't feel the exact same in those other examples, where it has like a very whimsical, and it can jump from very whimsical and very gleeful tones, because at the end of the day, and again, we've said this before on this podcast, like, we are literally talking about a kid show.
Yeah.
Like we and that is not a negative. Like, this show is made for kids, and we're adults here talking about a kid show, and that's okay. But a lot of people will carry these things to heart and will be like, this is not dark. Like, dude, you're talking about a fucking animated show for kids.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the best things about the Clone Wars, because it was able to carry those two themes, or like those whimsical and those playful elements were very attracting for a children's program. but it very easily slid into very mature, into very dark themes of like genocide,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
like
Jess, we're gonna start with that.
yeah, and I think it did it very significantly where no other show was doing it like that at the time, and it's specifically something as
Yeah.
in Star Wars wasn't doing it that well, and I think it carried over into this,
Yeah.
where in the way that you said, well, what do you call this, like a spin-off? Or to me, it doesn't really feel like a spin-off. It feels like a direct continuation
Right.
because it
Yeah.
carries
Yeah.
the same balance of tones.
Mhm.
It feels like I'm watching Clone Wars
Yeah. It's just
more or less,
fucking.
but
It's like
it's
Godfather Part 1 and then Part 2.
yeah, and that's not a negative. I don't think
Yeah.
that's a
No.
negative. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I think
Well,
this, yeah,
well, there's
it'll.
two things. Like when you're a kid
Mhm,
show, you have to be smart about it because you can't just
mhm.
go all Game of Thrones like, yeah, it's whatever. You kind of have to use the imagination with that. And crap, what else was I gonna? I was gonna say something. Go
That's
ahead,
all
I'll
right. Yeah.
remember. But
Good.
But
Mhm.
then I lost my train of thought. But
Oh, that's all right.
it feels like
Oh, you broke up.
even like I feel like it's not a negative for me to say it feels like a direct continuation because people are just like, well, why not just make more Clone Wars then if
Yeah.
you're gonna make it? Because the original plan for the series before they greenlit like a final revival season was that the show was going to continue slightly after Order 66 anyway. So people might be like, well, why just not make another like season 8 of Clone Wars and have the Bad Batch have another arc, right? Like that could be like a complaint.
Yeah.
But this show will
Mhm.
definitely, I feel, differentiate itself because again, like we've never. I mean, I said it earlier, like we've seen things before 3 and 4 before, but we haven't seen things exactly like this where the Empire is like the very earliest of days, like how
Mhm.
people react,
Yeah.
how
How the
people will
transition
either
happened.
how some people either submit because they think it's good, or some people will start a fight, like
Mhm.
as we see
Like Saw
in
Gerrera. Yeah.
we get teased and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
I feel like that's all cool and everything. Don't get me wrong, but I feel
Mhm.
like this show definitely has more up its sleeves
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
Yeah. I
you
guess.
can't make the show just that,
Right. Right.
you
For
know.
sure. Well, I guess kind of. Well, we're a little short on time, but just like winding down here. I guess like that goes into like kind of our last few thoughts on the show. What do you know? Because we've seen just the premiere at this point. What are your expectations for the rest of this series? I know this might be a little long-winded,
Um,
but yeah.
I love the new tough guy becomes dad trope. I talked about it on Mandalorian. I love the found family type of thing, especially if
Mhm.
it's what is it, 4 clones and a baby? We're gonna call this.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but
I'll,
it's just interesting to me. Star Wars was always about dads. If you think about it, there was this documentary I saw like a long, I don't remember what it was called, but it was about Star Wars fans, and it's one of those documentaries where you're laughing at Star Wars fans, and then at the end they're just like, how dare you laugh at these fans, they're sad, they're people. But they asked, so why Star Wars? And the huge answer for that was like, I related to Luke because Luke had a shitty dad. And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh. So now I'm going into that mindset because of Mandalorian with all these like found family things. It's like, what are these guys working through right now?
I
What are you
don't
guys
know.
working out right now?
Yeah.
Either just the idea of like, yeah, I have some baggage, I might be a hot mess, but I can still be a good person, a good dad, and I think that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely.
um,
Yeah.
I'll say, I think a lot of, and this might be controversial, but I think a lot of the show is gonna hinge on Omega,
Yeah.
and I'll say this that I
We
definitely
didn't talk
talking
about
about
her a little. Yeah.
yeah, but I think a lot of the show is gonna hinge on her, and I think it's gonna be for the better because I would not watch a series about just a bunch of badass clones. Like she
Yeah.
definitely adds that uh, that she definitely changes things up for the better. But more importantly, there's a lot of like, I guess if you want to say poetry, you know how it rhymes, but
It rhymes.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of. She reminds me a lot of Baby Anakin from
Oh
the
yeah.
Phantom
Yeah.
specifically, but for a few
She's the
reasons.
special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's destined to be something greater that she's not aware of. It's a
Yeah.
child.
Mhm.
Two, they're very, very like naive in the sense that they're kids. Like I think it takes a while for Omega to find the footing in the premiere, because at first I was like, wow, this is like baby Anakin, because she's not going yippee, but she's going like, what is that? Like she's being very childish.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
as the show later progresses, and it shows you that she's not just like a naive little girl. Like there is
Right.
something up with her, and there's something going to be important. So it reminds me of that in that sense. And also, and this is going to be explored in other episodes, she's never lived a life outside of what
The
she's
Camino.
seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Anakin had never seen water or grass prior to living on Tatooine. He just saw sand his whole life.
Just
It's
saying.
something
That's why
similar
he
with
hates
her,
it.
where and you will see
I
this. In
I saw the
future
first
episodes.
5 minutes of the new one, so I know exactly what you're
Yeah,
talking about. And I
exactly.
giggled. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, she's never seen all of these other things. So when she goes,
she's
like,
been on a ship or whatever.
yeah, she's not gonna say, "I hate water. It's
Hate
everywhere."
water.
She's not gonna say.
Why-
Not
yeah.
gonna say
It's
something
not
like
like
that.
the aliens from
It's
Science.
cold.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's cold. It gets everywhere.
there are a lot of baby Anakin parallels, I feel,
Yeah.
and I think all for the better. And I think again, people don't fucking realize this is a fucking kid show we're talking about. People love to fucking complain and
Yeah.
cry about the Martez sisters
Right.
and Clone Wars. I don't, because for all
I know
these
who that
reasons,
is.
it's stupid. But I feel like when she first came out, I was like, oh god, I can feel the same thing happening here. There are all these guys are gonna be like, who's this little girl in my Bad
Yeah.
Batch show about badass clones? Who is this? Fuck her or something. But she's gonna be. I think we're all gonna warm up to her much more. I'm already liking her a lot. I'm already feeling really connected. I think it's really cute how she kind of looks like little Boba, but
Yeah,
just
a
a girl.
little
She
bit.
has a little
A little
accent.
bit.
It's cute. Like it's
Yeah.
cute. Why am I gonna? I have nothing to complain about. And also, what they're gonna do with her thematically, I feel is gonna be much more interesting, because I've already seen people talk about how her relationship with the Bad Batch is gonna be kind of like Grogu, Mandalorian-esque.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like no, I'm not a big fan of Grogu, but no
Yeah.
offense. I feel like we're gonna get much more out of that, because she's an actual child who can talk, who can express emotion, and who can like has all these layers to her prior to just like a little puppet.
Not a
Yeah.
50-year-old toddler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even, you know.
That's weird. Benjamin Button.
She's definitely gonna be the highlight of the show, and I feel like the potential for her moving even after Bad Batch, if whatever her hidden secret, whatever she's able to do, her capabilities, I feel like she can be a mainstay for in the
Yeah.
long run for sure,
Yeah.
and for the better, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's
Uh,
working with the people that make the clones, so she's there.
Exactly.
She was probably made special for a reason, like quite
Yeah.
literally. I'm also just like, I also don't care if we don't get a reason, but like, oh, she's a girl? That's interesting.
So yeah, I guess just my thoughts on what I want to see. Definitely more Omega. I think Omega's really an interesting character. I didn't see the Anakin parallel until you brought it up, but yeah, I don't know. Omega seems pretty interesting, and just seeing more of the clones, and like you kind of saw a lot of the like stuff on Camino through her that you hadn't seen before. Like, there were other like personalized clones besides Boba. So
Mhm.
interesting, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see more Mandalore stuff from her. I don't know.
Omega means last. I just Googled it.
Oh yeah. It's from the because it's
So
from
she's
it's Latin.
the last clone.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And then we
There-
get the rise of the clone. We get out. I'm out.
Oh, see,
Goodbye.
we
Goodbye.
just had,
I'm done.
we
Yeah.
just had this
Oh
like
no. Where
I
are we
don't-
going?
had a weird epiphany about the show.
So that was Luke then, that last Jedi. No more
Uh-huh.
Jedi. No more clone. No more clones.
A
No
lot
more
of- there's
clones. Which
a lot of
we do know. Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah, the potential with her is just so. Again, like I don't know if other people. I don't know if this is a hot take, because the moment that she like her first few scenes, I was like, oh man, people are not gonna like this. It's really hard to write kid characters, yeah. So
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
one of
Yeah.
the parts, like, oh,
Well, at
these
least they
old
didn't,
dudes who are like, yeah,
at least they didn't have
Yeah.
a 40-year-old voicing her.
yeah.
Yeah.
but the potential with her, just because she is essentially, I feel it's kind of less like unfair. Just, oh, she's girl Boba, But in essence, that like to kind of pitch that to somebody who doesn't know anything. Oh, she's like girl boba, right?
Yeah.
She's a little kid.
Yeah,
But
I don't. Well, I mean, it's
but
barely been an episode. I don't want to say
no,
that.
exactly. No, 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 no.
I
I'm
know.
saying that's just like the log line to her character, I guess.
Right.
A
Yeah.
girl
Yeah.
boba, like
For
right.
sure.
But I feel what they're gonna do with her is gonna be so much for you.
Yeah, I can't even.
Just what she can. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even predict. But yeah, I
Is she
guess I'll
gonna
get
be like the group medic or something?
group
'Cause she
medic?
worked at the hospital, so
Yeah.
you know that character that has to be in like almost every space show.
Yeah.
So
Well, maybe she'll
got
be
that.
like she'll be the new sniper after Crosshair. Like
Watch.
yeah,
screw them out, yeah.
Mark
that's
my
right.
word.
Because that's right. She was
Mhm.
like, I never shot before. What?
Oh, and
Yeah.
she shot him. That's good. Oh, mark
She's-
my word.
Where'd you learn to shoot? I don't know.
hmm
Like Maggie. Maggie. She's like Maggie from The Simpsons. There you go. Bring it
She's
back
Maggie
to The Simpsons.
Simpson.
Yeah.
Yeah, full circle.
Oh.
There we go.
I'm gonna say this here because like Lucasfilm is very strategic and they're very like they don't always like they do shit on purpose all the time. Like they brought back the Bad Batch arc out of all the arcs that they had dead that they could have revived for the final season. They brought them back. Why? Because they're gonna get a spin-off, right? So mark my words, this Omega, just like Ahsoka, I feel like it's gonna be very easy to put her into live action.
Yeah.
And I don't see why. I mean, this is just like a tinfoil hat guess right now, but I don't see why a character like her, who is a clone, I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the series, and I don't know how long or how many seasons it's going to go for. But the first season's already going to be it's confirmed for 16 episodes.
Right.
I don't know how long, but I can see Omega popping up in the other Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
If not, maybe Book of Boba Fett because Boba Fett's involved and he's a genetic clone as well, or something else, Ahsoka, whatever it may be. I definitely feel like we're gonna see this person in live action sooner than later because there's just like no way. Like you guys, like they love to connect their shit so much and they love to like tout it. Like
I know.
connected.
Yeah.
So I feel like if there's someone that's gonna live or that's gonna make it out of animation, it's gonna be her.
Well, okay. Just put that on Reddit and then timestamp it, and it could go viral.
I'm gonna pin it. I'm gonna pin it right here next to Han, and then yeah, we'll get back to that.
Nice.
3 years, you'll see.
3 years,
Give
we'll
it
see.
3
In
years.
3 years, mark my words to the day. I'm putting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's our thoughts on the Bad Batch. Just wrapping up here. Let's see. Shelly, where can people find you at social media?
You can follow me on Twitter. I'm always changing my Twitter handle because I don't want my work to find me. But anyway,
Okay.
it's sh_LBI. And then you can follow me on Instagram. It's Sheldy Chandler.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. You got some funny tweets. Some cool tweets. Andrew, where can
Thank
people
you.
find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at AndrewJ626, and of course, you can see me. You can follow the page I work for, Discussing Film. You've probably seen them before, and I always advocate and I try my best. If you ever want to have a gentle, civilized, as Obi-Wan would say, discussion about whatever it be, capes, superheroes, Star Wars, whatever it be, I will be there. And I'll try my best to engage because I feel like lately, personally, me and I feel like a lot of us kind of feel this way more or less about different things. How there's just so much now that it's like either overwhelming or like we feel ourselves like we feel like we need to take breaks from like this kind of stuff. But I feel like the Bad Batch is genuinely a nice like welcome back for me, is I guess into the Star Wars because I'm for other people here, even though we might feel the same. Maybe we do, probably, but these last 2 years have definitely been not like the best in terms of me engaging with this franchise because not the biggest fan of these last things that we've gotten in a row. May I say in a row? But I feel like this is a generally like it's a good welcome back for me.
Okay.
And it's like, well, maybe I am a fan.
Definitely.
Maybe I am a fun. Welcome back.
Yeah, enjoy. Definitely be on the lookout for that. I'd recommend, all the articles you guys have. But yeah, you could find me on Twitter and Instagram as Gene9892. You could follow the Waffle Press on Twitter at the Waffle Press. on Instagram at the Waffle Press Podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Like, share, subscribe. You know, you just look on there, find something you like, or maybe don't. Subscribe anyway. That'd be really cool. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We've been professionally unprofessional.